So, like I said, I'm just going to be talking about the commercial space framework, anything as a service. In general, anything as a service, it includes all cloud infrastructures that people can order over the internet. Like X is usually used as more like a placeholder for many other things. It can be interchanged with I infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or most commonly used is software as a service. So the model generally has applications in also physical products and hardware products, but in general, it's usually more common in the software segment. And the model is such that rather than executing a one-time sale, so manufacturers find a way to servitize their products. Um, by servitize, what I mean is that like you sell solutions and outcomes to customers rather than the tangible product itself. So instead of just providing an hardware or a particular physical device, you kind of provide the value, the experience, you deliver the value to the customers. So the way it has been is that you normally would want to set up an infrastructure, buy a lot of equipment, buy a lot of gadgets, and probably if you are going to be launching rockets, you need a lot of satellite systems and some antennas and some equipment for your ground segment. But now you can just more like rent those stuff. So we could also partially call it a product as a service, and the manufacturer is just in charge of the maintaining the product, and such products can like have multiple lifetimes. So I'll just give a bit of background in space commerce, past and present, so that I can like merge it together with what I'm about to say. So like we all know, like space commerce started early 21st century, that's this particular century, and generally analysts view it as a $100 billion industry, and consists of several services, satellite operation, launch operation. So I'm just kind of going to like skip that part because previous speakers have talked about it. But like the various segments that we have, the Earth to space, the where infrastructure and services are developed on Earth to facilitate the use of space, then the space to Earth, then that service delivered in space for use on Earth. That's like SATCOM and geospatial downstream analytics. So those the last one is space to space, but we're not going to major in on that. So in general, the particular space industry has been facing a bit of barriers, and the price of admission has been high generally. The cost of entry has also been high, different economic barriers and some high risk factors. Some of it sometimes could be regulatory. So my talk is going to be focused on the service industry, how the service industry is actually fixing this problem, how the service industry is reducing the barrier to entry. And okay, so that's it. So in general, as a service, we have three major ones, like I mentioned: infrastructure, where the provider provides the infrastructure for you to store your data, and those components generally include servers, storage, virtualization. So if you're in the space industry and you have an application or you have a value that you want to deliver, so the infrastructure is already created in this scenario. Why platform as a service, that's PaaS, it's more trickle down. It's such that you probably access it over a web browser, and the tools that you can use to tweak your solutions are already provided. And the most common one in the software realm is usually SaaS. Yeah, it's commonly called SaaS. That's software as a service. So almost everything is delivered in that extent. It's just for you to kind of consume the value. But when it comes to space industry, one is getting more common, and that's ground station as a service. So ground stations are usually um, usually like a setup of infrastructure that allows you to communicate to your satellites, allows you to like process data. So if I'm a launch provider or I'm in the geospatial analysis business or Earth observation business, I would have to like set up a lot of infrastructure to like scale up my operations. I would have to manage a lot of equipment. But companies that are now involved in ground station as a service, they kind of provide that service. So I don't have to like spend a lot of capital in setting up my equipment. I don't have to acquire a lot of infrastructure or IT technical expertise before I can like consume value and also deliver value to the end consumers. But I just want to mention that XaaS, that's anything as a service. In some cases, also called everything as a service. It's not actually limited to the four that I've mentioned. We also have database as a service, data as a service. There are probably up to like 20 that I can like think about now. Network as a service and global security as a service. But we'll just keep towards ground station as a service. The company is already servitizing products. One of the most popular among them is AWS. That's owned by Amazon. So AWS ground stations, this kind of like I mentioned before, a fully managed service lets you control your satellite communication, your process, allows you to scale your operation without worrying about building or managing your infrastructure. Like so, you use satellites for various variety of use cases, including weather forecasting, surface imaging, communications, and video broadcasts. For example, if I'm in the video broadcasting business, I may not necessarily have to like set up and launch my own satellites up there. If I'm in the launch business, I do not necessarily have to like launch my satellites to communicate with my rockets and with mission control. Ground station as a service already like takes care of everything in between. Then same with Azure Odetara, which is owned by Microsoft. Generally, they do refer to themselves as a fully managed cloud-based ground station as a service that enables you to like communicate to your spacecraft and your satellites communications, your downlink and uplink data. They process your chain services and everything is like done in the cloud. So all these kind of like lower the entry barrier such that almost anybody with a little bit of preparation can leverage on all the existing networks. Another example that I've displayed here is Varsite RT, that's Varsite Real-Time Earth. So they provide Earth observation, remote sensing, and all these services to the remote sensing communities. So they also boast of it being much more affordable than owning your own equipment. And the model of this is, for many of this, is kind of usually not a one-time. Your payments can be recurring. It can be on a yearly basis. It can be on a monthly basis or sometimes daily. In some scenarios, it's also like based on bandwidth, like a sort of pay-as-you-go service, like on demand, more like you are renting it and your payment is based on whatever you consume. Spacecom also is another company. Theirs is slightly different. What they do is mission control as a service. So they provide you a mission planner software that allows you to like plan your mission, set up your task, and send some daily commands and files. They also allow you to display your record and different stuff on the client server structure. So all the softwares and layers that you need in between the communications, they kind of take care of it. LiveSpace also provides ground segment as a service. And another peculiar one is the launch company. Up to now, we actually have not really seen something like this. But the launch company, what they do is to design mobile launch sites that could be used by multiple launch providers. So as a launch provider, for example, you wouldn't probably, if you're just starting up, you don't want to spend so much time to building your launch site or your launch pad. You can sort of rent a launch site, a mobile launch site that will probably just be wheeled or flown to your location, and the company in charge, the launch company, would handle the maintenance. What they just provide is that service. So the whole experience is all you get. You don't have to build hardware. They can easily like work on the wheeling fittings and the disconnections and for various things. So these are the aspects of the services industry that actually lowers the barrier of entry. So it used to be more expensive than this before, but now that you can just leverage on the existing infrastructure that has been built by these companies, it's now easier for like smaller startups to come up without having so much money. Then much more other experience, I've actually mentioned them, but I'll just like generally say like the expense model and IT resources that actually shifted to the cloud. So you don't spend a lot on server down. Then you can customize your the value proposition, your value offering. Then possibly you focus on your core offering and your customers in general. Then because you can scale easily, it enables you to deliver better quality products or service. And it's more predictable. So based on the information you gather and everything like that, you can predict how much value your customers will be providing and will be getting from you. And the general disadvantages, I mean, why you would not want to do it is is not as much as the advantages, but just like possible downtime, performance issue on the provider side. But like usually they have such big infrastructure, so you don't have to worry about that one, and it's now kind of like an advantage to you. So I'll just generally like conclude by saying, since we've been mentioning that over time the price of admission is becoming lower, so we are looking forward like in the future where ultimately anybody can probably set up a small space company and offer value to people. The industry is generally experiencing like a rapid change, and ultimately you should be able to like probably place an order for an experiment on in microgravity, probably on the ISS, or you should be able to place an order for a particular service from the satellites that already exist in space, just from the comfort of the web. And so I generally would conclude by hoping that many more companies, especially in the African ecosystem, we see a more diverse ecosystem whereby different companies come up to actually solve humanity's problem, actually solve Africans' problem, and in general, make us fully spacefaring. So, thank you.